Hello everyone and welcome back to the Common Sense Crypto channel. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on XRP. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day today wherever you are in this great world. We're gonna talk about XRP. And I gotta start with this from Uphold. Hello March, new month, fresh start. What's your game plan? Will the U.S. crypto reserve news spark alt season, or is more volatility ahead? You know, the fact that Trump announced the U.S. crypto reserve, it's just news. I tell people that. First you get the news, and then you get the real value. The real value is going to come when the U.S. government actually starts holding XRP. March so far has not been very good for XRP holders. You know, I honestly thought that news could set off alt season, but it was just news. I thought that, coupled with maybe a few other pieces of big news, would get things going. Let's wait and see what Friday brings now, because big news is also supposed to drop on Friday. Look, CNBC initially calls XRP Ripple in their announcement of the crypto reserve. The propaganda continues. Like I've said all along, billionaires are controlling the mainstream media news. They're also controlling the narrative. It's the same reason why Bitcoin is even part of that strategic reserve, because the billionaires and the big bag holders that hold Bitcoin wanted it included. If nobody was backing it, it would not have been part of that strategic reserve. And Johnny Deaton actually dropped some very good news on the mainstream media news. Take a listen.
Former Massachusetts Senate candidate and crypto advocate John Deaton. Wow, big U-turn here.
An XRP expert. We should buy. Let me just throw this at you. The market is down 700 plus points. We have tariff worries. We have debt worries. We have the 10-year acting really weird. Sometimes it's up. Sometimes it's hovering around 4.5%. Why is Donald Trump spending $1 gazillion on a strategic crypto reserve? It sounds like the dumbest thing in the world.
Well, listen, there's a difference, Liz and Charlie, about a strategic reserve where you take the assets already that the government owns, the 200,000 Bitcoin that they already have on the books and the other cryptos, and say, we're going to hodl that. We're not going to sell it for 20 years, and maybe come up with something like, you want to pay your taxes in Bitcoin or XRP, we'll do that. We'll shed a little bit of that in the strategic reserve. But this concept of buying, using the taxpayer funds to buy,
issuing debt to buy Bitcoin.
Well, yes, Bitcoin and crypto is a hedge on the devaluation of the U.S. dollar. So we don't print more dollars to buy the hedge of the devaluation of the dollars. And what we need to do is focus on stablecoin legislation.
Why did he go? Why did he go there with this?
Listen, I think a lot of promises were made in crypto. Crypto played a big role in the 2024 election.
Crypto money.
Yes, absolutely. Fair Shake was the
single
largest.
So he just threw all these crypto guys a bone by saying, we're going to buy your coin and stop the decline and stop the correction. So we're just going to buy it. The federal government stepping in. And
listen, I think it's fair to say that the president and his family are pro-crypto. You're talking about the Trump meme coin. You're talking about World Liberty Financial, where his sons are all involved. President Trump owns, Ethereum. And so, listen, crypto's here to stay. It's an important development in our financial markets and moving forward. But I think we got to focus on what the market needs. We need a market structure bill. Charlie, the first time you and I talked, you were like, why are we applying 1930s law and 46 case law to modern day blockchain technology, artificial intelligence, automation, robotics, quantum computing? Let's focus on the things we need, like real reform. Centralized exchanges. If Coinbase goes bankrupt, you know that my money goes into Coinbase's creditors. So we need things like that. Consumer protections to protect those things.
You're an expert at XRP. You helped with the help Ripple defend itself. That's the native coin of Ripple when they brought the case for issuing XRP as an allegedly unregistered security. XRP is one of the cryptos that are going to be in this reserve.
Correct.
Is Donald Trump now going to drop? He has to drop the case, because if he doesn't drop the case, if his SEC brings the case again, his U.S. holdings are going to go down. He's going to hurt himself.
Liz, Charlie, imagine what 4 years difference. The last 30 days of the Trump first term, Jay Clayton, as the SEC chairman on the way out the door, filed this Ripple case. 4 years later, within almost 30 days of the second term of the presidency, now XRP is going to be part of the crypto reserve.
Does that mean he drops it? He
has to drop it. We just had a United States president stamp of approval on XRP, Cardano, Ethereum, Bitcoin, Solana.
If he doesn't drop the XRP case, the American taxpayer is going to get screwed on this.
Well, that's one thing. And listen, if I'm Ripple and Brad Garlinghouse, I've got the leverage now, I would say, in any negotiations in this.
With Mr. Atkins, the incoming SEC chair.
You would think so. It's going to be very hardcore press to say, listen, we want you to pay $125 million. Here's a thought. How about Ripple pays that $125 million fine that Judge Torres issued and start the crypto reserve in XRP?
John, why?
What Johnny Deaton just said there makes a lot of sense. Think about it. Ripple pays the fine in XRP, and they get rid of the case altogether. And the case has to be dropped. No matter how you look at this, that case is done. And that's why I talked about it in that video yesterday. I think it was already done. I think it's in the works in Washington, and I think some people are leaking the information early. But let's wait and see where this goes from here. And another case gets dropped. SEC drops Kraken suit. And this is where I would say, what about Ripple? But the Ripple versus SEC case, in my opinion, is a done deal already. We're just waiting for that news to drop. And hopefully it gets done in the month of March. You've been patient. Now it's time to be rewarded. Staking is back on Uphold for U.S. residents. I told you they were going to bring staking back. That was that big news that they were hinting about over the weekend. So staking is back once again on Uphold. Top NBA champion Scotti Pippen says he is bullish on XRP. Now, normally I would say, who cares what Scotti Pippen thinks? But the fact that he's now bullish on XRP, that's a big deal. Because remember, Scotti Pippen also said he met Satoshi back in 1993. And he was on Saylor's bandwagon. Take a listen.
You mentioned you met Satoshi in Seattle in 1993.
Yes.
He also came to you in a dream. You have a nice relationship with Satoshi.
I feel like I do.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a story to tell. Definitely have an opportunity to meet him back in 1993.
So I guess he was hanging out with David Schwartz back in 1993. But did you see that look that Michael Saylor gave him when he said he met Satoshi? Because the second the world finds out who Satoshi is, it's it. It's all over. Like Dan Penna says, Bitcoin would go to zero. And this is interesting. Meanwhile, Ukraine is somehow the fourth in largest Bitcoin holdings by country. How does the Ukraine hold 46,351 Bitcoin? Well, General Flynn calls Ukraine funding one giant money laundering operation. And I said, this is why Tether needs to be investigated by Elon Musk and Doge. Think about that. I'm telling you, we were right all along. Tether picked up right where FTX left off with the money laundering. And that's why they wanted to keep it going. Even now, Zelensky, he says that war is going to go on forever because they don't want to stop the money flow from, coming in from the United States. But it looks like Donald Trump isn't going through with sending any more money to Ukraine. Binance to delist 9 stablecoins, including USDT for Europe and Mika win for Circle's USDC. So this is going to happen on March 27th. They're going to delist Tether, USDT, First Digital, FDUSD, TUSD, USDP, DAI, and Euro, AEUR, Terra, USD, and Terra Classic, USTC, and Paxos Gold. So, like I've been saying all along, Tether is a ticking time bomb. The fact that it's getting delisted in Europe because of MiCA, the same thing is going to happen in the United States once stablecoin regulations are put in place. Nobody wants to believe that's going to happen, but that's what's going to happen because Tether cannot pass an audit. And if you can't pass an audit, you're not going to pass regulations. Let's just face it. But this is something else that we got to watch out for now on March 27th. It feels like the floodgates are going to open up in 2025. This comes from Riz. Take a listen to what Monica Long says here.
You're a US-based company. There's been a change in administration. Sort of what's your readout now as to what the opportunity looks like in the domestic United States for some of these technologies?
It feels like the floodgates are going to open this year, doesn't it? I mean, so within the past a couple weeks, so SAB 121 being called back or rolled back. And I mean, within, it felt like minutes, you hear from CEOs like Bank of America saying, we're all in. And, these are institutions that Bank of America was one of our early partners when we were doing kind of like the messaging software only payment solution. So we've worked with these types of banks for a long time, and the lack of clarity, and I think in the more recent time, even hostility toward, hey, using these assets and this technology is not okay, it's dangerous, which is not the best way to handle it, as we would say. But looking forward, I would say, yes, it seems like there's going to be a sea change this year. And even I could say post-November, the US election result, even just the ongoing conversations we've had with banks around being reserve bank or transaction banking partners for the stablecoin or for our payments business, like the tone and message changed overnight.
Think about that. The tone changed overnight. And she says that this is going to be the year the floodgates open. That's going to be massive going forward. We are just waiting on regulations. The second the United States passes regulations, it is going to be massive. Everything is going to change like an overnight event. And then from there, we just watch institutional adoption happen for all of these utility-driven cryptocurrencies, in my opinion. And Cardano founder reiterates that XRP holders will receive midnight airdrop. So Charles Hoskin said we're going to get the glacier drop. I mentioned this in a video yesterday. There's not much information around this yet. I think once the time gets closer, we will know how to get that airdrop. But this is where Charles and David Schwartz were having a back and forth, and he mentioned that the airdrop is going to also benefit XRP holders. I will give you up-to-date information as we get it. But I wanted to do this video today because I wanted to show you that even though things look very volatile right now in the crypto space, that everything is still on track. Everything's still going to happen that we talked about over the last couple of weeks. We just experienced another pump and dump, in my opinion, in crypto. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're manipulating the price of Bitcoin. Big bag holders of Bitcoin cannot sell without disrupting the market. So how do they take profit? Well, they let the market pump up, then they sell off, they take some profit, and then they pump the market back up again, and they rinse and repeat. But what happens is, because we're still following the price of Bitcoin, the rest of the market goes with it. That's why when we decouple from Bitcoin, that's going to be so important. Because the second we decouple from Bitcoin, we are no longer following that manipulated Bitcoin prices. XRP and the rest of these utility-driven cryptocurrencies will be able to not only go into price discovery, but continue upward momentum. And that's what we're waiting for. That's what I'm hoping happens over the next 12 to 24 months with institutional adoption. But until it happens, stay patient, stay positive, and let's get rich together. With that said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.